I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hey gang, Jesse Shade from Awfully Good Movies here, and though we've made countless memes about how awful the events of this past year have been, we've completely forgotten about how awful some of the movies were this year as well. Well, I'm here to remind you with a countdown of the worst movies of 2016. And much like last year, we had our awesome readers at JOBLO.com take a poll on what was the worst movie they've seen this year. But last year when Jurassic World made the list, a lot of you guys were, in disagreement.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
But we understood your criticism and want to protect our democratic process from internet trollery. So what we did was add the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes scores for each of these movies and divided that sum by the percentage of our readers who voted for it. And though our list has been rearranged accordingly, these top 10 worst movies are still the ones you guys chose. And if a movie you liked ended up on this list, that's perfectly fine. After all, my job is all about loving supposedly bad movies. And it's the job of all movies to elicit unique and different opinions from everyone who sees them. In other words, all I ask you out there is this.
Can we all just get along? Fuck you!
So without further ado, JOBLO.com and Awfully Good Movies present the top 10 movies you helped pick as the worst movies of 2016.
Sorry, Boo That.
Number 10, 9 Lives. When the trailers for this flick came out, people thought this was some sort of Tim and Eric sketch gone rogue. A movie about Kevin Spacey as a heartless businessman turned into a cat by Christopher Walken so he can learn to be a better father? From the esteemed director of the Men in Black and Addams Family movies? That idea's been done already in too many damn movies. And the guy starring in your family comedy is two-time Oscar winner Kevin Spacey? From House of Cards to Meows of Cats? How the hell did this happen? Well, turns out this movie was originally pitched by the studio's executive as an adult comedy in the vein of Woody Allen, where you can't even hear the cat's thoughts. But between his pitch and the film's release, it was rewritten as a wacky family comedy where you can hear the cat's thoughts.
Nailed it.
The studio executive died of cancer 3 months before the film was released, and the few people who did see it scoffed at its absurd script and cartoonish CGI feline. So it looks like we won't be getting 10 lives after all, or even 7 lives, where Kevin Spacey would have reunited with Brad Pitt. What's in the litter box? What's in the litter box?
Poopy boxes.
Number 9, Yoga Hosers. In the 90s, Kevin Smith became a loud voice in the independent cinema movement with his low-budget comedy, Clerks. But while his fellow indie directors have matured and grown with their newer movies, Kevin has been steadily going backward, ranting and raving against critics who dare dislike his increasingly weirder movies, from Cop Out to Red State to Tusk to this spin-off of Tusk, about 2 snotty Canadian teenagers fighting off Nazi sausage monsters, played by Smith's daughter Harley Quinn Smith and Johnny Depp's daughter Lily Rose Melody, with their dad starring alongside their daughters in heavy makeup. And as delightfully weird as the concept of Nazi sausage monsters trying to take over Canada sounds, the final product was just a self-indulgent mess, which even Smith's most hardcore fans turned their backs on. But hey, Kevin Smith is still a very funny, down-to-earth guy, as a podcaster. But as a writer and director, the dude needs to put down the weed, stop doing movies about Canada, and start making focused and coherent movies that not just his family and friends will find funny. And his next movie is a parody of Jaws, where he replaces the shark with a moose. God damn it, Kevin! Number 8, Boo! A Madea Halloween. Ever since introducing her on stage in 1999, Tyler Perry has turned his Madea character from a stage sensation to a film phenomenon. And after Tyler took a 3-year break from Madea to become a serious actor, he was inspired by a joke made at his expense in the Chris Rock comedy Top 5.
It's where Madea gets trapped in a haunted house.
And thus, over a mere 6 days of filming, Tyler Perry gave us Boo! A Madea Halloween. And much like the other Madea movies, it may have made an enormous profit, but critics turned its nose up at the usual Tyler Perry blend of wacky slapstick and deadly serious religious melodrama. But as someone who has yet to see a Madea movie, I won't dig into Tyler Perry too hard. The man has overcome a lot to make an entertainment empire, one which entertains its fans. And besides, I'm the kind of guy who watches Ernest P. Worrell defeat trolls with milk every Halloween, so who am I to judge you for liking Madea?
You see white people.
Number 7, Zoolander II. Speaking of classic comedy, Zoolander has proven to become a cult classic ever since it underwhelmed at the box office in the wake of 9/11. And in the 15 years since its release, people have been coming up to Ben Stiller and pleading with him. Yeah, the Zoolander was really funny. Maybe you should make another one sometime, if you want to. I don't really care. And this year, America's requests were finally answered with Zoolander 2. And it was bound to be a smash hit this Valentine's weekend, going up against some dumb superhero comedy starring that Van Wilder guy. Who fucking cares? Yep, Deadpool pretty much decimated Zoolander 2's chances that weekend, along with the brutal reviews that complained about the incoherent plot, the shameless repeats of the same gags from the last movie, and an endless amount of celebrity cameos, which couldn't top the last movie. I mean, it says something that David Bowie and Gary Shandling would rather literally die than come back for Zoolander 2. So in the end, Zoolander 2 was a sad excuse for a sequel that put the blue in blue steel. Number 6, Gods of Egypt. You would think a new movie from the director of The Crow and Dark City would be cause for celebration, but when the trailer for Gods of Egypt came out, it was instead cause for controversy. Because for a movie about ancient Egyptians who were black, there sure were a lot of white people in it. Oh, but hey, we got Black Panther in the movie, and we cloned him a bunch of times, so that counts as a black cast, right? The subsequent uproar forced Alex Proyas and Lionsgate to apologize for their error, but not the shitty quality of the actual movie. No matter what race the actors were, this movie had enough problems already, namely the rubbery CGI that looked worse than a God of War game, and the hammy performance of Gerard Butler, who's probably wishing he'd agreed to that 300 prequel after all.
This should be my reward.
And after the movie tanked with critics and audiences, Proyas went to his Facebook page to call the film's critics a pack of diseased vultures pecking at the bones of a dying carcass, which is a pretty accurate description for this movie. So what did we learn, Hollywood? Stop pretending Egyptians were white guys, and don't let your directors have Facebook pages. Number 5, 50 Shades of Black. Last year, you guys voted 50 Shades of Grey as the second worst film of 2015, and that film's ridiculous dialogue and overwrought sex scenes should have been prime material for a parody movie, in the hands of Mel Brooks, or the Zucker brothers. But in the hands of Marlon Wayans, whose family used to be associated with some of the best spoof movies, but is now associated with some of the worst, you end up with a spoof almost or equally as bad as its source material, thanks to its racially charged jokes that came off as just plain racist and infantile to audiences of all colors. And with a new 50 Shades of Grey movie coming this year, it doesn't look like there will be another 50 Shades of Black to accompany it. Oh, and to top it off, this was also the final movie for Florence Henderson before her death later this year. Yeah, I'd love to see the Oscars play this movie during her in memoriam segment.
I thought all you black men had rhythm and a big dick.
Number 4, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. And you're already writing the angry comments before I even finish this segment, aren't you? But before you do, you have to admit that for a movie which was supposed to kickstart a DC cinematic universe that would compete with Marvel, this wasn't the home run Warner Brothers was hoping for. I mean, most of us agreed that Ben Affleck defied all the skepticism and made one hell of a Batman, coming a long way from the ashes of Daredevil. But for some people, Zack Snyder continuing his dark approach of Superman from Man of Steel was even more ill-fitting than last time. For others, the screenplay was a jumbled mess of forced exposition meant to hype people up for the Justice League movie, but in the process forgot to tell a story for this movie. For a few, Jesse Eisenberg's performance was less Lex Luthor and more Jim Carrey's Riddler. Granny's peach tea, anyone? But for many, Batman and Superman stopping their fight just because they find out their mothers are both named Martha.
Why did you say that name?
Was an anticlimactic end to this long-awaited clash of the comic book titans. And though it made a lot of money in the face of horrible reviews, it was still an underwhelming return. Thankfully though, DC looked primed to redeem itself with its other movie later that year, which sadly leads us into number 3, Suicide Squad. Yes, with DC hiring David Ayer to handle this story of Gotham City's baddies teaming up to act as government mercenaries, they look to finally wipe away the disappointments of Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman and get this cinematic universe back on the right track. And good news, the movie made more of a profit than Dawn of Justice. The bad news, the reviews were even worse. You see, after Dawn of Justice's dark tone proved too much for a lot of people, Warner Bros. Decided to hire the company that edited Suicide Squad's trailer to re-edit the movie and match the funnier tone of the trailer. But with the film's underdeveloped characters, juggling active plot lines, and a mess of a third act battle, not many people were laughing. And though Margot Robbie earned a lot of praise for bringing Harley Quinn to life, Jared Leto's Joker was pretty underwhelming, considering all the heavily publicized methods he used to get into character. So whether you like the DC movies this year or not, it's clear from the amount of people who voted it onto this list that a lot of people were disappointed. And we can only hope Wonder Woman and Justice League can come in next year to save the day for DC. But what about the conspiracy by Rotten Tomatoes too?
Say Rotten Tomatoes again. Say Rotten Tomatoes again. I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say Rotten Tomatoes one more goddamn time. Why did you say that name?
Number 2. Ghostbusters. Yes, no movie got the internet madder this year than the Ghostbusters remake, replacing the biggest male comedians of the 80s with the biggest female comedians of the 2010s. When this movie was announced, director Paul Feig was no longer the beloved creator of Freaks and Geeks and Bridesmaids. He was now Faygo, destroyer of childhoods. And even when original stars like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray agreed to cameo in the movie and even praised it, internet commenters called them traitors. But when the overly dramatic shit fit thrown over this movie boiled down, a lot of people just thought it was a bad movie. It's hard to recreate that special magic the first movie had, and when you've got a remake that claims to do its own thing, yet has cameos from the old Ghostbusters cast as new characters, and yet references the other movies,
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
you're stepping in your own way. And with the disappointing box office, it's clear the improvisational style of movie comedies nowadays doesn't work with a carefully structured movie like Ghostbusters. But hey, some people liked it, and now your daughters have an excuse to stop dressing like a princess every goddamn Halloween. So let's put the anger aside, because at least we're not getting a sequel to it. And it finally gave High C an excuse to start making Ecto cooler again. And now, to reveal our number 1 suspect for the worst movie of the year, Independence Day Resurgence. 20 years ago, Independence Day was a blockbuster phenomenon which became the highest grossing film of the year, made Will Smith a movie star, and audiences declared the next Star Wars. Well, 20 years later, after Roland Emmerich got sick of ripping off Independence Day, he thought it was time to just make a straight up sequel to Independence Day, complete with all the surviving characters coming back. Bill Pullman, Brent Spiner, Jeff motherfucking Goldblum. They even managed to prop up the still fresh corpse of Robert Loggia right before they found out that he was dead. However, Will Smith was already busy enough juggling 2 crappy movies, so they killed off his character and replaced him with his now grown son, thankfully not played by his actual son, and Liam Hemsworth, the Frank Stallone of the Hemsworth brothers. And though the first Independence Day managed to overcome its corny script with Big Willie's charisma and those awesome special effects, the bland new characters and unimpressive CGI effects in the sequel just reminded us of how dumb that last movie was in the first place, and how much dumber this sequel was. So with that, the Independence Day franchise did go quietly into the night and did vanish without a fight. So it looks like it's not going to live on, and it's not going to survive. Because today, we celebrate the worst movie of 2016! And there you have them, the movies which you guys helped make the worst films of 2016. Maybe you'll see me tackle one of these flicks next year on Awfully Good Movies, every other Wednesday here at the YouTube channel of JoBlo.com. Until then, I'm Jesse Shea for JoBlo.com, and here are the runners-up for America's funniest worst movies.
Friends next door, they never